Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling something that's both fascinating and a little bit unnerving. Artificial intelligence.
AI is everywhere these days, isn't it?
It really is. AI, chatbots, algorithms that seem to know us better than we know ourselves.
Self-driving cars, even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's enough to make you wonder, should we be afraid of AI?
That's a great question, and one that we hear a lot.
Well, lucky for us, we have an expert here to help us unpack all this. Let's dive right in. First things first. When we talk about AI, what are we really talking about?
I think it's important to remember that AI at its core is a tool.
A tool.
Yes, like a hammer or a screwdriver.
Okay, but a very complex one.
Absolutely. But the point is that AI itself isn't inherently good or evil. It's how we use it that matters.
So like fire, it can be used to cook food or to burn down a house.
Exactly. And that brings us to some of the fears surrounding AI. A lot of it comes from science fiction, those stories about robots taking over the world.
Yeah, those Terminator movies haven't helped.
Right. But for this deep dive, let's focus on the real risks, the things that are actually happening or could happen based on the research you've brought.
That sounds good to me. Let's separate the fact from the fiction. So what are some of these tangible risks we should be concerned about?
Well, one of the biggest is what's called the black box problem.
The black box problem.
Basically, it means that a lot of AI systems make decisions in ways that are really difficult to understand, even for the people who created them.
So we've built these powerful machines, but we don't always know how they're making decisions.
Exactly. It's like we've got this incredibly complex engine, but we can't see all the gears turning.
And how could that cause problems in the real world?
Well, think about it. Imagine an AI system controlling something critical, like a city's power grid.
Okay.
And then for some reason we can't figure out, it decides to shut down power to a major hospital.
Oh, wow.
The consequences could be disastrous.
Yeah, that's a pretty scary thought. So it's not about evil robots. It's more about the potential for unpredictable AI behavior that could have real-world consequences.
Precisely. And it gets even more complicated when you factor in bias.
Bias.
Yes, AI systems learn from the data they're fed. And if that data reflects existing societal biases, the AI can end up making discriminatory decisions.
Like that AI hiring tool we talked about, the one that ended up discriminating against women.
Exactly. It was trained on data from previous hiring decisions, which already favored male candidates.
Wow. So even if we don't intend for it to happen, AI can perpetuate and even amplify our own biases.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to be incredibly careful about the data we use to train these systems. We also need to be constantly evaluating them to make sure they're making fair and unbiased decisions.
So it's not about stopping AI progress, it's about making sure it progresses responsibly.
You got it.
And speaking of progress, there's another big concern I wanted to bring up. Jobs. Are robots really coming for our jobs?
Well, it's not so much about robots as it is about automation. AI-powered systems are already taking over tasks that humans used to do.
Like those self-checkout kiosks at the grocery store.
Exactly. And the question is, are we prepared for the speed at which this could change the job market? Will there be enough new jobs to replace the ones lost to automation? And will people have the skills they need to adapt?
So it's less about AI taking over the world and more about it changing the world faster than we can keep up.
Right. And then there's the issue of misinformation, which is becoming a bigger and bigger problem in the age of AI.
In what way?
AI can be used to create incredibly convincing fake news, deepfakes, and other forms of manipulated content. And it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not.
So it's like we're already struggling with misinformation, and now AI is giving those who spread it even more powerful tools.
Exactly. And that's something we need to be very concerned about.
Yeah, it's like anyone can just rewrite reality now, and that's a scary thought in a world where we're already dealing with echo chambers and all that stuff online.
And it's not just politics either, right? Think about what if this tech is used to make up evidence in a court case, or to spread rumors that could start riots. The potential for harm is huge.
So we've got this potential for losing control, AI bias, economic disruption, weaponized misinformation. It's starting to feel a little dystopian, like something out of a movie.
And then you add in the militarization of AI and things get even more concerning.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we're talking about autonomous weapon systems that can make life or death decisions without any human involvement.
Like killer robots. Is this a Terminator situation?
Well, maybe not as dramatic as Hollywood makes it seem, but the concerns are very real. If machines are making lethal decisions, what happens to human accountability? What happens if an AI malfunctions or gets hacked?
I see what you mean. It does feel like we're playing with fire without fully understanding the consequences. It's making me a little anxious, if I'm being honest. Is there any hope here? What can we do to make sure AI is used for good?
Remember what I said earlier about apprehension, not fear? Fear can paralyze us, while apprehension encourages us to take action. And there are actions we can take to minimize these risks.
Okay, good. So what can we actually do to prevent these worst-case scenarios? Give me some good news.
Education is key. We need to demystify AI and make it understandable for everyone, not just tech experts.
So less AI is magic and more like AI is a tool we need to handle carefully.
Exactly. And that leads us to regulation and oversight. We need clear guidelines and rules for how AI is developed and used. That means governments, researchers, industry leaders, all working together to create ethical frameworks and safety protocols.
And we can't just leave it up to tech companies to self-regulate.
It's too important for that. We need safeguards in place to prevent unethical uses of AI, whether it's biased algorithms, weaponized misinformation, or autonomous weapon systems spiraling out of control.
It makes sense, but it also sounds like a massive undertaking. How do we even start to implement all of this?
We need to start by recognizing that AI isn't just a technological issue. It's a societal one. We need open dialogue and public participation to shape the future of AI. That means getting everyone involved, ethicists, social scientists, and everyday citizens.
Okay, I'm starting to see a glimmer of light here. Education regulation, public engagement. But let's get a little more specific. What kinds of control mechanisms can we actually put in place to keep AI on the right track?
One really important concept is explainability.
Explainability.
We need AI systems that are designed so that we can understand their decision-making processes. No more black boxes.
So being able to understand why an AI makes a decision, not just blindly accepting the output.
Exactly. And for really critical applications, we need things called kill switches or fail-safes, mechanisms that let humans intervene and shut down an AI system if things go wrong. We never want to be in a situation where an AI is operating entirely on its own with no human oversight.
That sounds like a good safety net. What else?
Strong, enforceable ethical guidelines for AI, and maybe even global agreements to prevent things like an AI arms race. Remember, AI isn't bound by national borders. This is a challenge that demands international cooperation.
This is starting to feel a lot less overwhelming and a lot more hopeful. It's not about surrendering to fear. It's about being proactive and making sure AI is used for good.
Exactly. We need to shift the conversation from should we fear AI to how do we harness AI's potential while minimizing the risks.
I love that. From fear to action, from apprehension to empowerment.
And on that note, I think it's time to introduce a concept that really captures the scale of what we're talking about, the singularity.
The singularity. Okay, you've definitely got my attention.
Yeah.
What exactly is the singularity and why should we care about it?
The singularity is this idea that AI will eventually become so advanced that it surpasses human intelligence, leading to rapid, unpredictable technological growth. It's a concept that has fascinated and frightened people for decades.
I can see why. What happens when humans aren't the smartest beings on the planet anymore?
That is the million-dollar question, and honestly, no one has a definitive answer. Some experts think the singularity will usher in a new era of technological explosion. Imagine advancements we can hardly even dream of happening at lightning speed, curing diseases, solving climate change, colonizing other planets. Just a few possibilities.
Sign me up for that immortality part. Seriously, though, it's mind-blowing.
It is. But of course, there's another side to the coin. Some experts worry about a future where AI makes humans obsolete. Or worse, where AI sees us as a threat.
So are we back to should we fear AI? If the singularity is a real possibility, the stakes seem even higher.
The singularity is a fascinating thought experiment, but it's important to remember it's still hypothetical. We don't know if or when it will happen. What we do know is that AI is already having a huge impact on the world, and that impact is only going to grow.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in these big abstract ideas. But the reality is we need to focus on the here and now. We need to address the ethical challenges, the risks, and the opportunities of AI today while keeping an eye on the horizon.
Exactly. It's not about predicting the future. It's about shaping it, making sure that as AI continues to evolve, it does so in a way that benefits humanity.
So what can our listeners do? We've talked about education regulation, public engagement. What about on an individual level? What can each of us do to make sure the future of AI is a positive one?
It comes down to responsible development, right? We need to make sure we're building AI systems that are transparent, accountable, and aligned with our values. As humans, we need to prioritize well-being over things like efficiency and profit. And we need to involve everyone in the conversation, not just the tech experts and the policymakers.
So building a future where AI helps us, not replaces us. where we can use it to solve problems and make the world a better place.
Exactly. I truly believe AI has the potential to do so much good, but only if we guide it in the right direction with wisdom and foresight.
You've given us a lot to think about. I have to admit I was feeling a little uneasy about AI at the start of this conversation, but now I'm feeling a lot more optimistic. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI. We hope you learned something new, and maybe even feel a little more empowered to navigate this new age of intelligent machines. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds open.